Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Parental Gamers Podcast. With myself, I am Andy, and
Diebods United. Hi.
our guest of the day, Justin. He's a friend from my real life. We've known each other since we were, who knows, 18, 19 at this
Yep,
point.
just
But
fresh out of high school, I think is about the time.
yeah, so we kind of adopted each other as each other's brother, and we played a lot of video games, lots of Halo, lots of Destiny, lots of Borderlands growing up. But today's podcast is generally titled "Branching Out Your Skill Tree," and very specifically, Justin is successful in his space as a retail manager, and we're gonna see. We're just gonna ask a few questions and have some fun and go from there. Just see what kind of knowledge he can bring into the space that we're involved in, and get to know him a little bit. DB,
It's exciting. It's our
how you
first
been,
guest.
dude?
It's our first guest, and it's somebody that's put up with you for more than 5 consecutive minutes.
This is true.
Long time, far too long.
It's impressive. I'm not gonna lie. We always thought it was just figments of his imagination, but
We always
We're
thought
happy
that
to have you.
Justin couldn't grow a beard, and here he is with this big old fluffy mustache goatee thing.
Well, you see, I get to wear a mask all day. You don't get to see it. And why am I going to bother shaving? What's the point?
That's right. That's right. Oh, I meant to shave this little thing that's on the corner of my lip. I have this really stupid hair curling into my mouth, and it's bugging the hell out of me.
yeah, just like I'm pretty sure somebody in chat said always is something in your mouth. But
But we're not paying attention to chat right now.
I didn't know you guys went to high school with them, too.
Wow. No. DB went to high school with a completely different time frame.
time zone, time frame. Yes, I am the wise, older, more mature one in this conversation. But
Yeah. So I guess we'll start from DB and go back the way. What you been playing? What you been up to, man?
I've Team of the Year for FIFA dropped today, and EA is making money hand over fist, as per every major promotion. So this is a big time for the FIFA community. I've been invited to a content creators league for MLB The Show, called the Sandlot League, which I'm super excited about. So those games start up this coming week. So it should be a lot of fun. So I've been dusting off my skills in MLB The Show, soaking up as many bullets as possible for my teammates in COD and Warzone, and realizing how much I despise that game, and still dabbling in slow grinding my way through Ghost of Tsushima. But
Oh, are you done the campaign on that, or are you just grinding through the side questy stuff?
so I've been grinding through all of it. I've put in about 56, 57 hours, and I'm only about 35% done the main campaign.
Okay.
But I did get distracted in a lot of the side, the multiplayer mode, the online multiplayer mode, because PlayStation released a whole bunch of free skins over Christmas that you could only unlock by playing the mode. Not EA, sorry, Sucker Punch. Gave us a whole bunch of unlockable skins for all the different characters based on classic PlayStation characters. So it was super, super fun. It's super easy. Like, you didn't have to stress, you didn't have to sweat. You just have to play the game and you got them, which was amazing. It was so nice and refreshing to see a developer take that or go in that particular direction. But how about you, Justin?
I've been popping my way through Game Pass, mostly trying to find games with a pause button these days. My boy's 2.5. He's into everything right now. So a long day of work goes by. You get home, you try and download something and jump in for a few hours, but you need that option to get away. But I just got through Star Wars Fallen Order. Just finished that off last week. Started up on Dragon Quest 11, I think is the one on Game Pass right now. I'm checking that out for my first time. I never played the original, so I kind of like that it's got the option of popping into modern graphics and back to the old sprite graphics at any point you like. Is pretty awesome. And what else did I start picking up today? Torchlight 3 popped onto Game Pass, so I was messing around on there for a couple hours this morning. It's like a
What's that
ARPG. It's like a Diablo style, grind and kill
Okay.
looter.
Okay.
Very cool.
My life with games has been the same. Destiny, Apex, PUBG. I picked up a mobile game. It's a Ninja Turtle one that Capone Gaming got me onto. It's
course he
very
did.
addicting. It's something. I play it. I made a joke when he was messaging me about it. It's my bathroom game and pre-bedtime game. So anytime I'm doing those two things, that's what I'm playing. And then today I started Fallen Order on stream, it's enjoyable. I'm dying a lot. I think I watched you play it, DB. Did you play it on stream once or twice?
I did a couple times, and it was too patient for me. Like it requires a lot more thinking that I'm used to. Like it reminds me of Ghost of Tsushima a lot, and I'm surprised that I like Ghost more than I like Fallen Order, given that Fallen Order takes place in like the Star Wars realms.
Yeah.
But just something about the combat and the timing, I couldn't get behind it. I just could.
So there's
got
that
frustrated.
big frog-looking thing that's what I remember watching you fight, and
Yeah.
I just went up against the one that has like the really big health bar. I gave up. I tried 4 times, and I'm like, fuck it, I'll come back when I have more skills.
Yeah.
So he got away
Yeah.
from me.
Is that the one down in the little cave?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like the introductory chapter. It's the prelude to
Yeah,
the rest
yeah.
of the game. And
What you do with that
couldn't do it.
guy? You can climb up on top of his little cave and drop in the hole and hit
Yeah.
X and do like a attack from on top of him and chunk his health bar down before you even start the fight.
Can you keep going back up and it doesn't reload his health?
I doubt it. I didn't try.
No, I'm pretty sure as soon as you leave, it reloads. Because I tried stuff like that too.
Yeah, I was
tried,
just
like,
actually
hiding behind
complaining about
walls.
that in the game. Is when you go into a doorway, all the things you've killed behind you, they spawn in again. So when you come back out, you have to fight the same people again. I hate that about
Yeah.
games. Like,
Well,
let me
later
kill
on
it
in
and
that
move
one,
forward.
if you've already killed off those little mini bosses and stuff, if you go back to those zones later, those mini bosses don't come back, but they got usually pairs of bounty hunters in there that try and wreck you. So it's kind of
good.
interesting.
That'll be fun.
See, when games have like an arbitrary skill hike like that, it drives me nuts. It's like I'm in this zone. I don't want to come back here unless I really have to. If I'm coming back here just to kill this dude to loot some shit, it's not happening. Like, just I'm out. I'm not coming back. Forward.
Yeah. So I probably won't. I won't focus too much on the side questy type things. Like, I want to get the chests, but I don't really care because so far every chest I've opened has just made me do something with my lightsaber. So I'll just carry on with the story mode and maybe make it like a, I don't know, Saturday Star Wars day or something. So it is, because it's very it's a very quiet game for me. Because anything story mode wise isn't really how I typically stream. So plus I'm probably just getting used to how fact it's so fucking slow. Playing shooter games, going to a game that has a skill tree. I don't usually go towards games with skill trees, so that's just.
But that's one of the things that drew me towards Ghost of Tsushima so much, and the tactics in combat are so much deeper in Ghost, and I can't get behind. I just can't get behind the game, and it frustrates the crap out of me because, like, I'm such a Star Wars junkie. Like, I've been reading the lore the last couple of years and all the redone novels for the new canon stuff, and I can't get behind it. It pisses me off.
Get it. So, typically what we do is we kind of bounce around. It's always kind of what we do. We never really focus on what it is we're going. But like, you have the list. I didn't write it down this week. I've been busy. I've been like, even today I got thrown for a loop as far as some things. We'll go into that a little later. But tidbits and historical kind of things, like what happened on this day. Today is Guy Fieri's birthday.
Love that, man.
52 years old. So on this day, if you have a birthday, January 22nd, you share a birthday with Guy Fieri. That's not so bad.
I think it's my spirit animal.
That's because he's Italian, or because he is your age and has a silly hair?
Wow. I did have hair like Guy. I'm just gonna say at one point in my youth.
I bet.
the porcupine with the frosted tips. Yeah, you know I rock that look. Maybe didn't rock it well, but I rocked it.
My tips are frosted, but it's not on purpose.
But the dude can eat. God bless him.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of, I don't have it. Is that the only birthday celebrity wise today?
That's the
Or
only
that we know
celebrity
of?
I recognized. Everybody else
Hank-
is like a TikTok superstar or like, whatever.
The baseball world lost legend.
Yep.
Hank Aaron today. That was a sad one.
Right.
But outside of that, in terms of gaming news, we had the launch of Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Vegas in 2008, which I played the crap out of on my Xbox. Tomb Raider 2 for PlayStation in 1998. Parappa the Rapper 2 on PlayStation 2 in 2002. Unreal Championships for Xbox in 2004. And The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past for SNES was, I guess, re-released in 2007. Wow, what a list of games for this! Like, that's
Quite the list, yeah.
Yeah. It's good though, but it's not really. When's the last time you picked up any of those games? Like, I haven't played any Legend of Zelda games since the Switch came out with Breath of the Wild, and then I haven't touched Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six unless it's Rainbow Six Siege, and even then I touched it and I just stopped playing it.
Because you were no good.
A little bit of both, a little bit of column A and whatever column B might be.
I'm not gonna lie, that game is impossible. Like, that game is so hard to play, especially at this point. But
Yeah.
actually, when the Xbox One came out, they up-resed both Rainbow Six Vegas and Rainbow Six Vegas 2. And because I love those two games so much, I actually went through and played them both again for the story. So I have played them within the last 10 years, just not within the last 5 or 3.
Yeah.
Well, you used to give me a hard time all the time growing up because I told you I'd never played a Zelda game, and I think that still holds true. I don't think I've touched one in my life.
Oh jeez, dude. And you know what? The only games I would tell you to play would be like Ocarina of Time, maybe Majora's Mask, and definitely Twilight Princess. Breath of the Wild, you probably enjoy more because it's like open world. There's a bit more involved to it. But the ones that you want to start with are Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask and all those. The good ones.
Okay. I've never beaten one. I've played Breath of the Wilds, but I've never played a Zelda game outside of Breath.
You know, anytime they make a TV show out of a video game, it's made it. So Super Mario Brothers had a TV show, and so did Zelda.
Yeah, we try to ignore the Mario Brothers TV show and movie.
Though. No, the movie was great.
Koopa Troopers.
I love that movie.
Underdeveloped Ninja Turtles, basically.
Yeah.
Wow. All right then. Moving on.
Well, that's what comes to mind. It looked like you slap a purple headband on one of them, and it's basically Donatello.
Why you gotta go after Donatello? There's 3 other brothers. Why'd you have to go after him?
It's the one that would touch the most.
Yeah. What are we doing today, DB? Tell us what we're doing.
Well, today we have the amazing Justin on joining us to talk just about we wanted to really get a sense with your experience in business, just talking about some of the personal marketing and some of the avenues of like today's with the onslaught of digital everything. It's really become more about marketing yourself than anything else. So we thought we'd bring on somebody who's in the public eye on a daily basis, who's involved in some of those mediums, and get a sense of what it's like to, and what maybe some of the tips and tricks are to really presenting yourself in, that isn't in a backwards cap and a hoodie to try to attract an audience.
Yeah. So the idea would be like, I mean, you've obviously marketed yourself very well because of where you are within the company you work for, but you've been with the company since you were 16, right? So tell us where you started and tell us where your journey started, as far as how did you know this is the path you wanted to go, and when did you start really settling in and doing the things that it took to get to where you are today?
Sure. Well, it's a bit of a funny road as it is for everybody. You don't always know where you're going to end up, and you don't always know where you're going. But sometimes you just make decisions along the way and start to customize your life a little bit to things that make you happy. I started with the company there just out of high school. It's a drugstore in Canada that's typically about 100 employees per store, somewhere in that range. And I started off in the computer department. Obviously I've got a little bit of an affinity and an interest in tech and gaming, and it seemed like a natural place to start as a teenager. And kind of just went for a summer job. It was the whole plan, right? Just to make a couple bucks, have some fun with my friends. Grew from there. You start to get offered a little bit more responsibility here and there. Management of a small department with 6 people. Learning more about the repair and tech industries and how customers like to shop. Learning a little bit more about the industry itself in terms of sales, both in store, online, and just maintaining a digital storefront in an era where online marketing is really just starting to take off. I was fortunate enough that my family business was online marketing and web development. So I had a nice start from my father, learned a lot that way. He was somebody who was being flown out to New York or Santa Barbara or Germany to speak at conferences and teach these sort of things as well. So obviously I had a little bit of a step up at the beginning, absolutely. And I took what I learned in that family business and that side of things, and I tried to apply it to my work at the store. And one day I asked my boss, can I do a podcast? Instead of coming into the store 5 days a week, can I take off early one day, or spend Wednesdays at home recording a podcast, doing a show? And this was probably 10 years ago now, so podcasts weren't quite as prevalent. It was more of a newer way of doing these shows at a time. I wanted to try and reach out to the customers in my area, so I was doing small shows based on common questions I was fielding in the store every single day, and going deeper into those topics. And then when somebody came into my store and asked a question, I had on the tablet the podcast set up and a place where they could go and drop their email address in and get registered up. And I had the backing of the store to do it, and was doing it with their permission as well. My own bosses walked in at some point, and I made sure they got a link and signed up as well. And then they dropped me an email a little while longer that they'd actually sat down and listened to them all, and really liked what they were hearing. So that kind of started to take me out of my little box and my comfort zone, because the next question was, do you want to stay in the computer department? Is that the plan? What do you want to do? So I decided to try some new things and try a different department and manage the general side of the business, the general floor. And within about 4.5 to 5 years later, I'm store manager now at one of the stores in Vancouver, and got about 98 employees of my own under me that I look out for, and we run a nice busy shop. So it's just baby steps and small ideas, but trying to take this sort of marketing and this way of reaching out to a new audience is something that really helped my career.
That's really cool. I mean, even just the idea at the time that you started it, to have the backing of the organization. I mean, it was such a new, like you'd mentioned, like such a new concept and idea of podcasts, and being able to take that initiative and them having the willingness to take that step with you is pretty amazing. I mean, there's times now where you hear companies that are unwilling to innovate or change course, and we're
Yeah.
well into the digital age.
Yeah. Well,
That's always the
looking
biggest
back
thing.
in hindsight a little bit, if some young 20-year-old kid came up and said he wanted to put the company's name on the line and talk about us and do a little show, it would be a little hard to hit the green button without having a good modicum of control over that, right?
Right.
So, thinking back to my past on that, I'm quite impressed that that the support was there, right?
So you haven't had any of these any of your employees come up and be like, can I make a TikTok and rep the TikTok account for us? No.
Waiting for the day, not yet.
If I remember correctly, because I worked with the company for 5 years, 6 years if you add the first time I worked with them. They do have each store has the ability to have their own Twitter or their own Instagram or whatever to help them reach out to the customers in their area that might be on those social media platforms. So
cool.
How's your store? Is your store involved in, or maybe not your store, I don't want to get too specific. What's your experience with social media in your field? Have you found more success because of it? And just thinking of on a personal level, I mean, you got involved in your community when you worked out here in Langley. There was a big apartment fire, and you spearheaded a store-wide donation thing to help get food and supplies and stuff to those who were affected, and it was quite a lot of employees that were affected by this. So I remember seeing him on the news, and I wasn't part of the business at that point, but he was on the news and he was trying to get a community drive. People in the streaming community are huge about community. People the size of myself and Dad Bod, the up and comers, they like to say, a very small knit group community. That's the thought process. I think I've lost my train of thought as to where I wanted this question to go. Pick it up, DB.
Well,
pick it up.
I don't even know what you're putting down. I mean,
shit.
Well, why don't I jump in just for a second on that story then? Because I forgot about that. That was years ago. Basically, how I could tie this in. What happened with that was I was in the store one morning and a staff member called in sick, and then another one called in sick, and then another one called in sick, all with some emergencies. So I started asking around a little bit, what's going on? Do you know this person? Like, talking to the other staff, do you know anything about them in the personal life? Do you know if anything's going on? And I found out that there was an apartment fire in their building, and that 3 or 4 of my staff even had all lived in that same apartment complex on other sides of it. So, not only them, but about 100 units in the community were put out of their homes and had to go, live in a hotel for a little while and wait till they figure out what they were going to do with that building. And I started in the store just talking to some of the staff, talking to some of the customers, and seeing what can we do about this? How can we help? And I asked my office, can we set up a little code at the checkouts where we can ask for donations from the community, that sort of thing. And they had marketing make up some little 4x6s, with what's going on, and a poster, and they set it up in the checkouts right away so we could start doing it. And then a short while later, I got a call from the local radio. They had somehow picked up on it, and they wanted to talk about it really quick. So I had a little chat with them about what we were trying to do and collect and how we're trying to help. And then next thing I know, Global's calling, Breakfast Television's calling, CTV's calling, all the local ones, and they all wanted to come down to the store, do in-camera interviews. But at that point, I wasn't the boss. I think I was third in charge, and my boss was on vacation. He was a couple cities away, so called him up. Hey, boss, what do you want me to do? Come on. He dropped his vacation and came back to the store, but he was, unshaven, not really ready to jump in front of a camera. So he just tapped me on the shoulder and said, "You're up." So we had a chat with all the local companies. Had tons of donations flood in, gift cards, clothing, food, sorts of things. Collected them in my shipping receiving area, kind of averted what a couple of the staff were doing and had them help out with that instead. And ended up being able to show up a couple weeks later to the Strata Council, or Homeowners Association for those in the States, and share what we had for the people in their building that they could sort out and give to everybody. But I mean, those little grassroots donations, all you got to do is try and help somebody and try and mean well. And you're not thinking about the business at that point. You're thinking about the people and the human aspect. But they really pick up on that. I mean, communities rally behind that. It's not what you're thinking at the time, but in terms of your brand and your image, um, really, there's nothing that goes further than an honest grassroots attempt to just help people.
And it's like two stories of initiative. It's like to try and bring it back to what we do in streaming. It's a lot of people get scared. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that because they don't want to try something new or they're scared it's going to fail. But that's two instances that you took a chance. You got the backing. Differently in the system that like I'm my own boss when it comes to this. If I say I'm not going to do something because I don't want to do it, you got the backing. You did it, but taking the chance because that money might not have been raised, that kind of stuff might not have been done if you didn't take the chance. And I think that falls back on kind of what we do. Just if you have an idea, it's not good, it's not bad until you give it a shot.
Well, I mean, there are some bad ideas out there.
That's okay, that's true.
Play on.
It's true.
But like Justin said, if it's a well intended or it comes from a good place, it's usually going to be a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a firm believer on it. If you have any type of platform, whether it's the backing of a large company or 10, 5, 3, 2 viewers in a stream, you have a voice, you have a platform. Putting your best foot forward and doing something with good intentions and for the better of others and not just to benefit yourself is huge. And I mean, the reality is, as much as many won't admit it, like, if you're doing some sort of event and it comes from the right place, it will garner attention. But it's the hope that you're doing it for the betterment of others and not primarily for the attention, right?
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, one of the fortunately unfortunate side effects of doing fundraisers and stuff that affect us, like you do cancer fundraisers, I do cancer fundraisers, the side effect of that is good publicity. People remember you for doing it. It's not the reasons we do it, but it is a side effect of what we do. And there's no doubt in my mind that when Justin spearheaded that fundraising campaign for staff and community members, that was in someone's higher up saying this person took a chance, and they thought about the overall picture. So I guess from when you started to that point, Justin, what do you think you did the best to market yourself as a person that was good for business? Because I guess if there's anyone watching or listening who hasn't done something to take a step forward like you have,
honestly, you just can't be afraid to fail. You have to expect to fail sometimes and be okay with it. We're not all good at things when we start them. It takes practice and takes patience and takes effort and hard work. And really, if you have an idea and you think it's a good one, you should try and push for it. Don't be afraid and don't let people tell you it's a terrible idea. I mean, might work, might not, but what are you going to learn from it? What are you going to take away from it? Because if you are somebody who can find the positive in any situation and learn and improve for next time, I'm sure you might fail 1, 2, 3, 4, 100 times, but I mean, the beauty of it is how we grow up, right? When you're young and in your 20s, you got lots of time to learn. So take a chance, ask questions. Don't be afraid to put your ideas out there. And then, as you get into your late 20s, your 30s, your 40s, and forevermore, really, you use that experience that you've garnered and you start to make better decisions, and it takes you further. But really, if you're asking me for one thing that I think made me successful, was just that I wasn't afraid to fail and tell people what I thought.
Take it away, DB.
I was just gonna say, like, in that, I agree. I mean, that's the hardest thing with the streaming thing too. Is like everybody wants to be this successful blow up streamer, but I think people, and myself included, sometimes forget what success actually, or how we actually define success. I mean, defining success doesn't have to be I'm gonna, be the next ninja and make, $100 million a month and have 100,000 people. Like I hit, average 10 viewers, and I consider myself successful. I hit affiliate. I considered myself successful. Success doesn't have to be, in my opinion, and I don't know, Justin, maybe you could speak to this as well, but I don't believe that success is a beginning and an end. I think you could be successful, like you can have micro successes along the way on your way to achieving your end goal, your end game. It's almost like setting up mini goals, having, taking those baby steps, like you said, putting yourself out there, not being afraid to, in our case, in streamers' cases, turning on the camera. In your case, 10 years ago, it was, asking the question and putting yourself out there with a fresh idea. I think that, not being afraid to fail is important, but also rewarding yourself for the small victories is another huge asset that I think we tend not to appreciate as much.
I would absolutely agree with that. Setting achievable goals, rewarding yourself for them, not being afraid to pat yourself on the back a little bit too along the way, and surrounding yourself with people who want you to achieve your goals. Setting up a network over time of forward-thinking people who share your interest in progress and how you treat other people. You really want to surround yourself with good people that way. But taking small, achievable steps. I mean, you don't go from turning on your camera to, like you said, ninja in overnight. Some people get luckier than others too, but for all of them, it's a lot of work, right? They put in countless hours. They build their community. They put in the effort to talk to them and branch out and network and get to know people who will support them or sponsor them. But if you take it one step at a time, as you said, day one, turn on the camera. Day two, get your 10 listeners. And anywhere you can take it from there, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, it's a. Go ahead,
DB. No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say it's a pretty amazing process, but it does take time. I mean, there's no instant success in any business, and it doesn't matter how, even the luck factor has come up quite a bit in a lot of streaming conversations where the one right raid and I'll be with the right number of people and I'm gonna blow up.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I could bring 100,000 people to your channel. If you can't captivate that audience, then what good has that done, right? Like that luck only gets you so far. That and even that luck, if I can almost guarantee you, there are very, very, very few big streamers who are going to blindly rate somebody on a hunch that they might be a good person, because at the end of the day, it's that streamer's brand on the line.
Yeah.
So there's work in that smaller streamer networking, putting themselves out there, getting to know that streamer. I've been rated by large streamers before, but it's because I knew who they were. They happened to be scrolling through the directory and they're like, hey, he's been in my chat before. Let's go say what's up.
I would equate it to a lottery winner, if you hear me out for a second, because you hear about and you see how somewhere around 90% of lottery winners tend to go broke within a few years. They blow it. They don't know what to do with their success.
Right, yeah.
They haven't built that foundation of financial management and understanding how to handle their wealth, to use it properly when it arrives. So an inexperienced streamer who isn't used to handling audiences, or getting that kind of drop of large numbers at once, if you had suddenly thousands of people drop into your stream, it would be hard to be prepared for it. So, I think by even getting that in the first place, all at once, I don't know if it's necessarily beneficial. Really building that bedrock, that foundation first, and the networking, and making mistakes while you're still small, and learning your platform, learning how to use the tools available to you, tracking statistics, building friendships. I think all of that's important to lay that foundation first, so that when you get to your success, you're ready to handle it a little bit.
I'm actually going to interrupt you just there, because you said something without even realizing you said it. Is one thing that people always do. They talk about networking in the industry, but he didn't say network in the industry. He said make friendships. There's a big difference. The people that you you grow to know the people that you spend time with, make those friendships, forge those friendships. It's a very important word, because it's not network, it's making friends.
Yep.
You'll meet business acquaintances and stuff like that, but I learned very quickly that networking was completely different from making friendships. So
Yes,
it's big.
the level of trust is what's important.
There was actually a couple things that I wanted to ask while you were talking there. They popped up. Every store that you've been to, every store that you worked at within your industry, different demographics, different this, different that, different ways of selling. How do you, just thinking demographics, like I can go and I can look at my analytics, I can see where most of my viewership's coming from. How do you take your, I guess, your analytics or your demographic, your area of sales, and make it pertain to what we do in the streaming world when it comes to pleasing a demographic, giving them what they're looking for? Like whatever research is involved in your process.
Really, I have a lot of statistics available to me on the job, in terms of demographic and who's coming and what time of day. And trying to relate that to streaming is a little bit of apples to oranges sometimes. But if I was to talk about demographics a little bit, I'd say I tend to just ask questions of my customer base. I don't necessarily to tell a story or an example is I got into my latest store that I'm at, and it's a new market for me. It's a side of town that I've never been on. There's a lot of customers who are from different ethnicities than the stores I've worked at in the past. And really, I just asked a lot of questions. What do you buy while you're here? What do you like this store for? Why do you come here? And I'd get answers like, "Oh, you're the only place in 20 blocks that has socks." And I said, "Oh, okay. Well, I didn't think of that. I wouldn't normally try and stock up on that. That's not as a brand who we really identify as, right?"
Right.
And you ask questions like that, and you get little pieces of information from the community, and you try and shape yourself towards what they're looking for. You can't always have a cookie cutter idea and apply it to every market and get the same kind of results.
Yeah.
Right.
And this is where retail is going to differ a little bit to streaming in a big way, because your audience is going to be not localized and they're going to be very diverse. So, I mean, you can't change your own persona really to match them, but you can learn what they're interested in, why they're there to see you, right?
Yeah, the takeaway that I got from that one is more the communication. There's a lot of the small streamers will sit there quietly, and I mean, you said all you did was ask the question and all that kind of stuff. So
engage them, learn their interests, and how you can ramp up your attention to those interests to hold on to that, right?
Well, there's also a lot of value. If I was going to compare that sock example, is when you're not streaming, getting to know the other streamers and chats within the community. And this is not an opportunity to go and drop your name in everybody's chat, because Justin wouldn't walk into a competitor's location and drop off a bunch of sale flyers. That's just not how you do things.
He actually might. He just might not do it in his work clothes.
But you can learn a lot by hanging out in other streams in the directory, especially some of the larger ones, and just getting to know the streamer, getting to know the chat, getting familiar with some of the questions that come up constantly, some of the things that the streamers asked on a regular basis. Getting to know just some of the things that the streamer may highlight or talk about. Now, you're not going in there to become another streamer or to copy another streamer, but you are going in there to educate yourself and learn from their interactions, the way they present themselves. If somebody has 800 viewers consistently, there's a very, very good chance they're there for the streamer just as much as the game. So what are some of the traits, some of the quirks, some of the things that how do they present themselves? How does their background look? How's their setup done? There are no cam streamers that are incredibly successful because they just know how to control an audience with their speech.
Yeah.
So I'm a full fully believe in spending time in the directories that you want to be successful in.
Yeah, Harris Heller is a big name on Twitch and YouTube. I always talk about him. I always bring him up at some point, and he said you might not know where you fit in necessarily, but it's okay to go and grab ideas from different places, which I'm sure businesses like Justin's does. Like they'll go to Best Buy and say, oh, they're selling this for this, what could we do to make it better? Just little ideas about sales and marketing, that kind of stuff. But the same for streaming is you go around and you pick the things that you like and you try and make them your own. No one's 100% original at this day and age. A lot of things have been done. There's not a first time for anything, but there is a different way of doing it that might be unique to the fan base or the community you're trying to build. So I think a lot of people think it's like plagiarism or stealing content, but it's just taking the things that you enjoy and what you want to put out.
Well, the beauty of it is you can learn as much of what not to do as you learn what to do. You can see what falls flat without taking that risk yourself.
True.
And learn from it that way. And you can really just pick little pieces. You know, I would equate watching other streamers that way to all the managers and bosses I've had over the years. You know, I've stolen positive traits from lots of them and deeply avoided negative traits from others. Really, you build yourself as a person or a business in taking some of those ideas, morphing them a little bit to your own, and staying away from the bad ones at the same time.
When you were younger, I know your parents sent you for public speaking courses. What would you again relate that to the streaming world a little bit? What do you think that did for marketing yourself and in your world?
Number one thing behind it is building confidence. Really, the biggest reason people fear speaking is having the microscope on themselves, having other people look at them, having their ideas examined, having, you know, every motion or tick or anything like that placed in front of people. So really learning to be okay looking at yourself, listening to yourself is the biggest takeaway I took from speaking courses. It's not necessarily about being the most interesting person and having the best topics and the best things to say. It's really about being able to look people in the eye while you talk, being able to stay calm, and being able to feel okay about it without panicking, being nervous, and freaking out. That's the number one takeaway for me, is just how it can help you build confidence.
And God knows you need a lot of confidence to put your face hole on the internet.
Yep.
Yeah, especially ones that look like ours.
I mean, I don't know.
Well, that's why we hide them, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Everybody on camera tonight, half their face is covered by hair.
If shit really goes south for me, I can just take the man bun out and throw my hair over my face, and I'm good to go. Like, you won't see anything.
Sometimes I wish it would actually stream backwards.
Oh, wow.
There's a fresh idea right there.
Right?
Oh man.
You know what? Stream.
I'm gonna take the advice of, you know, our earlier parts of this podcast, and I'm gonna be nice. I'm not gonna say the things I want to say.
Oh, okay. Okay. I'll just let the imagination run wild then.
That probably the best for. But you know, you mentioned about being able to make mistakes on a smaller platform or in a smaller area, and I equate that to and learning lessons from, you know, those ahead of you managers, or even those in our, I guess it would be streamers larger than us. Like, I look at the Mixer debacle, and I know there's a lot of hate and negativity towards the fact that the way things went down. And I know that I'm coming from a position that, unlike some of the larger streamers that had a lot more to lose than I did, the positives I look at is like, that was kind of the, you know, the B leagues. Twitch is that the first division, that Premier League. And being able to make as many mistakes as I did on on Mixer, the amount of information that I was able to garner and learn on Mixer, on that smaller platform with only a few people in my chat, and build my confidence on a smaller platform, given the fact that most of Mixer at the time anyway was primarily streamers and less viewers.
Yeah,
it was a phenomenal place to learn. Like if I was doing a short stream, I'd go hang out in another stream, or
Yeah.
I'd do a raid, and then I would just sit back and watch and take notes. And that really helped me hit the ground running when I came to Twitch. And it's been a really nice, steady trajectory for me here, because I'm A, much more confident, but B, I'm less afraid of making mistakes on a larger scale.
Yeah, I agree with that. Because streaming on Mixer, I remember being nervous going live for the first time, thinking, "Oh my god, my face is going to be in front of people potentially." And when we made the move over to Twitch, it was like I'm not nervous to change over. I'm just upset that Mixer doesn't exist anymore because Mixer was my first home, and I'll always have a soft spot for that platform. But I wasn't nervous coming over to Twitch. I just knew I had to start over.
Well, it taught you valuable lessons, I'm sure, in what the platform is looking for, right?
Yeah.
In a streamer, what sort of way is proper to behave? What sort of way builds the business? How to find routes towards partnership or affiliate, right? You learn, you knew kind of what they wanted when you had your foot first stepping into the door this time, instead of taking blind steps and trying to figure it out as you go.
Yeah, it's a different animal over on Twitch, just for the fact that being just on Twitch isn't enough. You have to try and branch out your. I mean, going back to the title of the podcast, branching out your skill tree, you have to be okay with branching out and doing different things to get yourself noticed. Which is some of the things that's what this podcast is. It's another way of us trying to branch out and do something different, producing different types of content that is relative to what we're doing. I started doing an accountability vlog for a weight loss journey that I'm into my first week already, and it's been fun. I mean, it's hard. It's different, but I think it's going to be good. And even if I don't do it, the benefits of losing weight is still fun. So, Twitch. I would never have tried to do any of this if I didn't have to make the move to Twitch, because I was close to partnership on Mixer, and I would have just coasted through that. But on Twitch, you had to branch out and do different things. So I'm kind of glad for the experience.
Yeah, it definitely forces us to get. It forced a lot of us to get better. I mean, I learned about LED lights. For those of you watching, LED lights. But you really did. I found myself coasting on Mixer near the tail end, and I already kind of had one foot out the door and was exploring other options anyway. So for me, it was the fear of the unknown, where I wouldn't step outside my comfort zone and get put myself out there on a bigger platform because of the fears of it being a bigger platform. But sometimes you just got to kind of, I don't know, maybe Justin will agree, like just pull the Band-Aid off. Like you have an idea, you have a passion, you have the fire for it, you probably have a lot of the right ideas for it. You just got to rip the Band-Aid off, put yourself out there and go for it. Because at the end of the day, the last thing you want to do, in my opinion, is look back 10 years later and be like, damn, I should have gone for it.
I think that goes for a lot of circumstances in life, depending on the situation. I mean, I'm sure some of Justin and I's best stories come from, fuck it, let's do it. So, and those are just like funny stories that ended up well, but there's a lot to be said, like we said earlier, is just taking initiative and making the right steps to just give it a shot.
Yep. If not me, then who? If not now, then when, right?
Yeah. It's also like the same thought process of like buying lottery tickets. Who's gonna win it, and why not me? Like, why can't it be me?
Right.
Which is a little bit like you're saying with LuckDB. Like a little bit of this, what we do is the right moment, the right time. We put a lot of work into this behind the scenes, in front of the camera. Lots of time goes into it. It's mentally exhausting. It's physically exhausting. Actually, that's because we started this podcast because we want to do parental gamers. Now, Justin's a gamer like anybody. I spent 3 hours last night playing Hearthstone with him, and just because I'm going to go right off onto this thought. How do you find yourself with the business that you're in, the way you market yourself, and balancing your time with your family?
That's always the tricky thing, right? And to your last point is, you can't wait for the perfect time. I wanted to build a family. I always wanted to be a dad. It was an exciting idea for me. Always, I think I was pushing for it a little more than my wife ever was. And we started off when we were young. When should we do it? When should we do it? And we did try to get set up first. I mean, we bought our house, and then we had the wedding, and then 10 months after the wedding, baby was born. And really, you can't just always try and wait for the perfect time, because yeah, it all worked out that way, and everything's good. But my kid is 8 or 9, 10 years younger than my sister's kids, for example. So it would have been really cool if I had started earlier, because we would have figured it out. You have a kid, you have your career going, you make it happen. You take care of the kid, you get things done, and you find a way. So you don't have to try and find that perfect time always, because your priorities change in the end. And for me now, it is family. So, everything I do to maximize the time I can spend with them. And I found that as I've moved up a little bit in my career, I'm not getting those late night shifts and everything. I get to be the one making the decision on who's working when. So, really, all the decisions you make along the ways, as your priorities evolve, they all change now so that I can spend time with the family. And my typical day would look now like getting up at 5:30, getting ready for work, getting into Vancouver for 7 o'clock, so that I can be off at 3:30, and then I can go pick up my boy from daycare before my wife gets off work, and we get to spend about an hour time solo, just the two of us,
Nice.
and then we spend 3-4 hours as a family before we put him down for bed, and then gaming time's usually after 8:30. So
That's cool. That's awesome.
yeah.
It's true
Yeah.
though, and I would imagine the gaming time comes with a little bit of conversation and with your significant other. Like, I know myself, I've told this story many a times. Like, I wouldn't be doing this without the full backing of my wife. Like, I have 2 kids, 6 and 3. So I get it. Like, they're just all over the place. But we put them to bed every night at 7:30. They go to bed. My wife and I, we go upstairs. We put them to sleep. The whole teeth brushing, the whole bit. Come down. Shoot the breeze with my wife for a little bit. If we have, talk about whatever we couldn't say in front of the kids over dinner. And then I'll come down 8:30, stream for a couple hours, 3 nights a week, sometimes on a fourth on the weekend. And then, you make time for one another. But like I said, I wouldn't be able to do this without her full support or her backing. And that would be regardless of whether it was video gaming or streaming. Justin wouldn't have heard about it. I think I talked about it on the first podcast. Before I started streaming, when I used to game, my wife and I would come and hang out in the basement down here. And just behind my monitor setup, there's a TV area, like couch and the whole bit. I had 2 TVs side by side, so that when my passion is gaming and she hates it, like she does not get it at all, and that's cool. But she'll sit there. She would watch her TV. I would have my headset in with one ear off so I could hear what's happening on the TV. I'd play my games, and we'd kind of converse while it was just our way of spending time together. It worked for us. But we both got what we wanted out of it. She was able to, wind down watching whatever she wanted to watch. I got to wind down playing my games, and that was my way to relax after a long day. And that was hers. People laugh, and she gets embarrassed by that story. And I could probably hear her snickering right now, and I'm gonna hear about it later. But
depending on the day, Justin's wife is just as much a gamer if she's not.
That's cool.
With the baby, but
yeah,
like if Justin was at work and I wanted to play video games, I would just go, because I used to live upstairs in the same house as he did. I would just go downstairs and say, "Hey Jenny, do you want to play some games?" And he'd come home and we're playing video games together. So
yeah, I really hit the jackpot on that one. I mean, she does get it. She's involved in the same sort of thing, and we tend to look for things we can play together.
Awesome.
Couch co-ops, things we can play, and sometimes it's fun because you're frustrated with how the other one's overreacting. For anybody who's played Overcooked or anything like that with their spouse.
Jesus.
If you can make it through that, you can make it through anything.
Yeah. But she'll get it. She'll play anything. She'll play shooters. Cool. She'll play Hearthstone. She'll play puzzle games, whatever. Typically, if I'm playing on the Xbox, she'll usually go grab the Switch. So, we find lots of time to unwind.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Jenny's a little rambunctious thing, and after a little while, she will get frustrated, and she'll just start like cursing why, like how why and how. And those are always fun times.
Oh yeah, she's got a mouth on her sometimes.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
guess
like
it's part
no,
of the
I love
streamer.
my wife to death,
Yeah,
but she's not a gamer at all, and that's why like. So for her, the cool thing is she's really good with social media, and she's got her own little small business. So what she's now taken on this year is she's taken over my social media accounts, and we've actually so I go by the tag Dad Bods United. I've had my logo artist create a logo for her, Mom Bods United, and now she's working on her own like Mom Bods United blog and Instagram and her own clothing line to off of my store, and it's a good accompaniment because now even when we're off, we've rediscovered a different common interest that we can discuss and work through, and it gives she's homeschooling my 6-year-old because of COVID right now, so she's at home while my daughter's in school. My 3-year-old's chilling doing whatever she does. She can put in a few hours, do some of the work on some of the clips or the posts and things like that. So the relationship part of it is just as important of having the backing of your significant other, and sometimes it's really about finding a way to bring you two together in that space.
And the beauty of what you folks do as well, from my perspective, is I know a lot of you will have other jobs and stuff as well, but when you are streaming and putting in that work, you get to have some fun doing it, but you also don't have that commute. So
Yeah.
you need to take a break. You can go get a kiss from the wife. You can give your kid a hug. When you're hanging up the headphones for the night, they're right there, right? You can go and see them and hang out, and
Yeah,
you're not away for hours at a time. And if they need you, you're just in the next room still, right?
yeah. There's been
definitely.
a number of times I've had to cut the stream because Luna either wasn't going to sleep right away, or especially right after she was born, when there was some pain and discomfort from the birth.
Mhm.
It was there was definitely time that I had to be around to be around more often, and
Yep.
yeah, it
I mean,
was.
from a kid's perspective, because growing up, as I said, my dad worked online for a living
Mhm.
from as long as I can remember, from when I was 10 years old or less. I mean, he rode the wave one of the internet, right?
Wow.
And he was building sites, doing affiliate marketing, earning money, like just making a living online back when I was just a kid, right? So having him around, even though he was working 12, 14, 15 hours a day, a lot of days from his desk, um, he was there. And, you'd walk
Right.
up and you'd poke him in the ribs and he'd stop and he'd play with you and he'd hang out. And when we got a little older, when I was in my late teens, still living at home, when I was 19, 20, he'd cut it short at the end of the night, and we'd crack open a beer, watch a hockey game. He's there, right? He's even though he's working or streamers are streaming, it's nice to have that figure around, right?
Yeah. Right.
Um, it's a comforting feeling for kids to have you in the next room. Um, I don't know. I can't say enough
It was
about
actually, if
being
we
around
think
for the
back
family.
about it, and we think about it a little bit, your dad was like up till the wee hours in the morning, working till like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and near the later days, he was going
Yep.
to the bar and stuff like that. But I remember him always working late. He'd go to the bar when it was closed, and then he'd come home. And always come over, and he's got his Tim Hortons coffee in his hands. But like even doing that stuff with his affiliate marketing stuff, does the same thing that the streamers were up till all hours of the night, just trying to do something more. So, and some things don't change when it comes to sitting in front of computers all day. Just they're always trying to
Yep.
get
Yep.
something
Yep.
more
Yep.
done.
Well, it's a difficult balance. Like I know I've struggled with it personally because because I work. We've got our own small construction business. Because I'm out of the house all day. When I do come home, I try not to be here. So I am
Yeah.
completely invested in my wife, my kids. Because it's only a couple of hours. We put them to bed very early. I'm
Yeah.
home by 5. Bless my wife, she'll have dinner on the table by 5:30. If not by the like as I'm walking in the door, she's just running to put it on the table, which is incredible. Um, but yeah, from that time for those 2.5 hours a night, I'm here. And that was one of the things that my wife and I talked about when I decided to try to pursue this was I could either take on more side jobs or smaller projects to do in the evenings, or I could see if this makes us a couple of bucks, and like to Justin's point, I'm here. If something goes wrong, it doesn't take it into cancel stream or you guys, I got to end it because XYZ just happened. You're here. There's no commute. If there's an event of emergency, you're here.
Yeah.
It's it's a big deal. It's cool though. It's cool. Like, what would you? I know in the retail space that a smile can go a long way, and just the way you conduct yourself and present yourself, is very important. And I would imagine it's increasingly difficult to portray positivity and things like that with the masks, given the current health climate we're in. How important would you say, or how has that maybe changed the way customer interactions go now with you've kind of taken your eyes out of the equation. It's a lot harder to visualize a smile or to see those mannerisms or that demeanor these days.
It's definitely been a lot harder. I mean, you can't lie in this COVID type environment. It seems the patience of the average person is lower, right? People are tired of being told what to do. People are tired of having to follow all these rules everywhere they go. And the vast majority of the population is very good about it. They know what to do. They want to keep everybody safe. But you also get others who, as I said, don't want to be told what to do and just want to do their thing and rules be damned, right? But I mean, the most important thing for us is just to stay calm and friendly, and just know that you can only influence people's day for a couple seconds at a time. So, how do you want to be remembered? How do you want to make anybody feel? Because we know very well in retail that a couple small words from somebody can really ruin their day if it's not nice, right?
Yeah.
So I think people in this environment are extra sensitive to that, and I certainly encourage my team to say nice things and pay a little compliment here and there. And I think that's really the easiest way to get through this when you can't see that smile,
Yeah.
and people aren't quite as bubbly right at this moment, is just to say something nice, right? And make them feel good about their decision to come around, spend their time there.
Every Christmas staff meeting I ever had when I was with the company, I'd always take the time to say, it's hard enough with the customers at this time of year. Be nice to each other, help each other out when you can. It'll make the day go so much smoother. And I think, again, taking it back to the streaming thing, is typically streamers are nice to streamers, and you get the odd troll. A bad customer would relate to a troll in stream, and it can affect your day. You get one person coming in, you calling you a fat baldy, which I've gotten, and that's before I shaved my head. So
how could you be mad at them? They're just spitting facts.
Okay, and that's not to say that's actually someone who doesn't know me. Like, my friends say it. Like, Taylor used to say baldy all the time, and you've called me fat and bald DP before. But when a complete stranger comes in and they say that before they say anything to you, it definitely impacts your ability to want to do anything that day. Like, it takes you out of it, and it's really hard to, as you say, focus on the positive. It's really hard to focus on the positive when the first thing you hear is negativity from someone. So,
well, the point that I was trying to get at through the question to Justin was that it really doesn't differ all that much within the streaming realm. I mean, there is a certain etiquette and a way of presenting yourself, because unfortunately in this industry, it's still very much there is still quite a bit of it is driven by looks and aesthetics, and whether it's your look or the setup's look or the combined look, like a lot of the perception, especially from the male perspective, and this is a sensitive topic across the board, is that women might have it easier because they do this XYZ.
Mm-hmm.
It's bullshit. Mm-hmm. It's bullshit. There are plenty of successful, good-looking men. There are plenty of incredibly successful streamers who don't need to, of the female or other genders, that don't need to show skin or do anything to garner these huge audiences, other than just be a great person, good at video games, and communicative. The idea that yes, they're, if somebody's scrolling through a directory and there's, they see somebody that's good looking, they may stop and scroll. But if that person doesn't have everything else that comes along with it, in a personality and conversation and engagement, doesn't matter how good looking that person might be or what physical attributes that person might have. The average audience member is not going to stick around.
And honestly, the people go around saying boob sell, or whatever. It's the person's confidence. If you got a good body and it means you want to show it and that makes you confident, be confident. Put your stuff out there. It doesn't really matter. How you present yourself does not affect my content. How I present myself affects my content. I don't really care what people do with their stuff.
The reality is, if that person is scrolling through Twitch to find that type of content, they're going to scroll right past me anyway. So they were likely never going to be a part of this community.
I never did. That's why I came to the chat.
It was all the beard and the man bun that got you. I know.
Came for the dad bod, stayed for the personality.
Nobody's seen me from the nipples up. But it's very similar. I mean, there's that level of engagement. That smile goes a long way in old retail days, or just a few kind words that engaging would be equivalent or relatable to the engagement in your chat. Mm-hmm. Being grateful for everybody that comes in the store. And that's why Walmart had the greeters position, and still does, is because they engage every single customer that comes through.
Yeah.
Just be grateful, even as a quote unquote small streamer, be grateful for everybody that comes through that chat, whether they're there just to say hello, or they're going to stick around for hours. I hear too many horror stories of people, entering chats and there's nobody else there and the streamer just ignores them and it's tough. It's tough.
Well, that's really what gets me, is that there's a million ways people can choose to spend their time, and if they've chosen to come and watch you on stream or chosen to come into your store, it's easy to be so grateful for that, because really there's a million things they could have done. They could be watching anybody else. They could be at any shop down the road. But the fact that they're spending their time, which we know how valuable time is, as we just talked about our families and how much of a crunch we're in, we choose to spend that time in places that make us feel good. So taking that opportunity as a merchant or as a streamer, and just recognizing that person is making a conscious decision to spend that time with you is really a big deal. It's super important.
I wanted to ask a question earlier, but it passed me. From where you started to where you are, and this is going to sound like a very big interview question, like you get the job, it depends on this question. What was your biggest challenge? And I know that's a good, like, your workspace, they love this work, challenge or roadblock or barrier. What was your greatest challenge and how did you overcome it?
I'm gonna have to think about that one for a minute.
Think about it. I'm just gonna talk. You can think about it for a second, and I'll ask DB the same question. And more specifically for DB in the streaming world, what was your biggest challenge, and how did you overcome it?
I honestly, the biggest challenge was the reset for Mixer. I mean, outside of actually just going live for the first time and understanding the right ways to grow and build a community, because my first days I was very close to getting sucked into a follow for follow cult, because that looked like the coolest thing to do. It was like, wow, like I could get all these followers if I just follow this one person, and then all these people are going to love me. Yeah. And then you get like 35 people following, you're like, sweet. And you go to stream for the next consecutive weeks and you realize, shit, none of those people are coming because they're all streamers. Nobody's hanging out, nobody's watching you, nobody's, it's but the hardest thing was the reset, because there was a good part of me that wanted to hang it up and just be like, I'm done. Like it was a fun experience, but is it worth starting from scratch again? And luckily I caught a little bit of that luck where the MLB community here really opened its arms to me and embraced the the overall streamer community concept and really opened their arms and was like, listen, it sucks to lose your home. If we would hope that, if the roles were reversed, you would be there for us the same. And
Yeah.
they brought me in, and I've been able to kind of I guess I was able to start Twitch, just hit the ground running.
Yeah,
and just go.
I think definitely like moving from Mixer to Twitch felt like a store transfer, Justin. Like, okay, the people are different, but the job's the same. Like, it's gonna take a while for it to feel normal. And I think with the store transfers, it was like, give it 3 months and it'll feel like family again. And that's, for the most part, that was what it was coming to Twitch. Is 3 months just to kind of settle in and get that feeling. So that's good.
Yeah, I mean, thinking back now, and that kind of jogged a couple things for me there. A story from Dad Bod there. For me, really, when I decided to take that leap out of computers and tech and try to learn more about the business as a whole and switch over to manager of general merchandise, I mean, in pay and all that sort of thing, it was sort of a lateral move. But really, when I made that move, it felt like I was working for a different company. Everything I knew about my work from day to day, which I'd been doing for almost 9 years, was completely out the window, and I was in charge of an entirely different scenario. And I remember my boss coming up to me, why didn't so and so do this last night? This should have been done. And I said, I'm sorry, I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't know so and so was supposed to be doing that. Because of the lateral move, I hadn't walked up all the steps prior to that job in the same kind of environment. So I was suddenly in charge of people whose job I hadn't done before. And it was really out of my comfort zone for a little while, trying to figure out the dynamic of that, the scheduling, and who's supposed to be doing what when. Especially when you go from running a team of 6 people to 60 to 100, it's a massive change when your own priorities are out the window and and reset.
So would you say that was just the challenge of getting used to a new position then?
Yeah, the when you feel like you're really good at something and you have taken this promotion, this step into a different environment, and all of a sudden you don't know what you're doing. That's what was hard for me, is not being good at something. You step in there and you're getting a little bit of trouble for not getting things done. You don't fully understand the goals on a day-to-day basis, and you feel like you're not getting it done. You don't walk out of the store that day like I nailed it. You don't feel that. And it was probably a full year had gone by that I didn't have that feeling, right? There's a lot of digging your way up from the bottom all over again, feeling like you just started over. So it very much felt the same as your Mixer to Twitch experience there to me.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. I mean, how many of us came back? I mean, a lot of us were fortunate that communities came over, but I know myself, it was,
Yeah.
back to like 2-3 viewers, 1 viewer, sometimes less than that. And I'm like, yeah, maybe. And again, you kind of start to question your decision to start up again. And it's like, oh, maybe, you know what? Like, I was at like 18 to 20. Do I really want to go back to this again? Like, do I want to put myself through this again?
Yeah.
And it's a tough road to climb, and you don't want to give up because you don't want to be that quitter considering everything you've invested in already. But especially when you are a parent and you have a full-time job, you start to look at it like, is it worth it? Like, do I really want to do this? Do I really want to, especially with everything that I had going on last year on top of that, I was just like, oh, this is not happening.
Yeah. Do you find it as hard to, I mean, Justin can answer this question in his space too, like every time you think about maybe not doing it, do you just find it's really hard to just pull that trigger and say, I'm stopping this, I'm going to try something else? Like for Justin to go from retail and take his experience in life and work and try and put it in a different industry versus us like just stopping what we're doing and focusing on other things. Like every other week I think I'm just gonna stop. Like I'll finish the stuff that I've got going on for people this week, and next week I'm done. I can never do it. It's something that just keeps me here. And not just my promise to you, DB, that I was going to be a part of this podcast. Just like
you can leave it anytime. I'll change it to parent gamer.
I just there's something about the probably the same. I mean, Justin's been doing this job since he was 16. There's something that keeps us coming back. It doesn't matter, and I know Justin went through a time where he didn't know if it was for him anymore, and and we.
I think it's a natural reaction for all of us to second guess what we're doing, especially when things aren't going perfectly to plan.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, over the years, I just find ways to keep it fresh. I think in the last 5 to 6 years, I've probably held 4 different positions now. In terms of always reaching for more. For me, what drives me is learning. So I'm always bugging my bosses. What else can I do? What can I learn? What can I take on? Whether it's a coaching job or interviewing outside candidates for supervisor positions in the district or all kinds of different things. Jumping on board with vendor projects and helping. I like to get out of my comfort zone and help with jobs and tasks that aren't necessarily my everyday job, and that's what keeps me interested. And I never felt like I was locked in on one particular trajectory because I've changed my mind a bunch of times, and I feel like if you're willing to put that effort in and learn about a new job or a new event you want to be a part of, there's always a way to get your name in there and find a way to participate. So
for sure. I mean, if you want to equate some of what Justin's saying, in my opinion, to the streamer world, it's putting yourself out there, finding ways to get excited about streaming again, like finding your passion. So why are you even doing this in the first place? Like, is it all just about the money, or like, because let's be honest, for the majority of us, this is going to be nothing more than a passion project. Yeah. I mean, I'm at a stage in my life where, with 2 kids, a house, my wife, like, the risk is, far greater than the reward for me to, drop everything and do this full time.
Yeah.
So as much as I look at this as a part-time job, if I'm not passionate about it, I could just shut it down tomorrow, cancel all my subs, and be like, guys, thank you for everything. But I'm gonna go mow the lawn. But no. You've got to remember why you're doing it, and I think that's the easiest thing to forget sometimes when you get wrapped up when you see that first payout and you're like, oh, I'm gonna make it, and then a couple days into the next month and you're like, oh, maybe I'm not gonna make it.
Yeah, it's kind of the same. I go through that thought process like every year at my birthday. Subs and donos come in. I'm like, oh my god, this is like a viable option for like a subsidized income. And then January comes along and it's like, oh no, it's just my birthday. So it's easy to get caught up in it, though. It's definitely easy to get caught up in it.
And yeah, like my biggest goal for this year has been, the one driving thing for me this year, and the one that kind of reignited my fire was after the charity stream last year, like raising that money for the Canadian Cancer Society. Through the t-shirts that we did last year, was like, well, now I was able to do that with, a community of this size. Yeah. Imagine what I could do if I pushed the envelope and double the size of my community.
Yeah.
Like, could I double the size of my donation? Like, that was my thought process after that charity stream. Was like, man, the community just blew my mind.
Yeah.
What else can I do to give back? Like, how much more can I do to grow this community so that we can do even more, for either the Canadian Cancer Society, Quest to Conquer Cancer, Princess Margaret, whatever the cause is.
Yeah.
But that was one of the things that really set me into 2021 is like, oh, what ways can I really ignite or reignite that passion, find ways to raise more money and use this platform for something like that.
Yeah, and Justin said it earlier with like the time you find the time your priorities change. But while he was younger, like in your younger years, when you have the time, you don't have the family that you're looking to spend all your time with and at least get some time with. and then with what you said about not being scared to learn or that you want to learn, like I took it upon myself to take on like video editing, image manipulation, those kind of things. Those things are interesting for me, and I work to learn something new about those every day. But on the streaming side of things, just trying to bring it back to what Justin was saying about learning things, there's so many aspects that has to do with this industry that you can learn other than sitting in front of a camera being good at video games. There's all the behind the scenes stuff that if you have somebody else doing it, that's great that you can have that happen, but try and learn some of it. Try and take on some of the creative aspects of it, because it's just another tool in the toolbox, so to speak, that could help you out in a pinch. Like I have, if you want, quote unquote, 2 clients that I run their YouTubes now, with the hopes of getting more. And what I do for myself and what I do for the channel here, I wouldn't be able to do any of the stuff I do if I didn't just want to learn those things because they're interesting to me. So like,
well, and developing those skills is something that can build you a safety net, right? Because there's always people online looking for help creating their content, even outside of the streaming world. My own mom, she's 59 years old this year, and my dad passed away 2 years ago now, so she's on her own. But she just picked up a job where she's going to be working 3 days a week for a doctor down in the States, helping him get his content online because he's trying to learn how to do more of the WebMD sort of stuff. Because his brick and mortar is costing him a couple $100,000, and nobody's coming in because of COVID, right? So she's, 59 years old. She doesn't want to leave the house either for her own health and to watch her grandkids and stuff. But imagine being at that point later in life, and you can just pick up a side gig, get extra $2,000 a month, just helping put some stuff online. I mean, she picked up those valuable tools just assisting my dad over the years. I mean, she didn't have a job since I've been alive. She never did. So, I mean, the fact that she picked up those skills, she's able just to, at this late point in life, just work a few days a week in something she wants to do, and do it from home. I mean, whose 59-year-old mom can pull the trigger on that and
I don't think my
make a
mom's fingers are
full
strong
income,
enough to
right?
pull a trigger.
Yeah.
That's super cool. It's never too late, chat. It's never too late.
Most of the conversations we've had tonight, they fortunately fit the title of the stream, branching out your skill tree, communication, networking, friendships, learning all these things, stepping outside your comfort zone. Don't just be happy in your box. You have to, unless your box is super big and you have nowhere else to grow. That's great, good for you, but I almost guarantee no one's like that. Just keep trying to do more. I think that's pretty simple. It's just better yourself. Is what most people say. They just want to be a better version of themselves, or the best version as they can. Whether it's business or personal, you can always do more. And I think Justin's company, or the company that Justin works for, they kind of beat that into me a little bit. It's like, okay, you've done great. You got 100% on this. Now how can we do better for the next time? And with sales numbers and demographics, all that kind of stuff, you're always trying to do better anyway. So it's always a nice way to, like Justin said, pat yourself on the back, but what can you do more as well sometimes?
My favorite lesson from tonight, and I think I don't have any other questions for Justin. I'm incredibly grateful for him taking the time to join us tonight. I think there's a lot of valuable insights shared for sure, and it's always nice to hear how relatable people's skills from every day are and how applicable they are to this industry and the streaming side of things. Because I think sometimes, and I know myself, given that the variety of experiences I've had through working retail, training sports teams, personal training, selling equipment, to now construction, there are so many skills that I've picked up along the way that I can equate and relate to this that I never have, because I've never thought of it. And now, sometimes hearing it, from a Justin or from Andy in conversations, you're like, oh shit, I do that every day. Why don't I do that here? So I loved hearing the idea of taking that Band-Aid off, not being afraid to take a leap. and just really being confident in your ideas. I think that's listen to be taught. So thank you for that, Justin.
I appreciate you guys having me on. It's been fun to chat. I'd be happy to come by and say hello anytime, but I'll be looking for you over on Twitch too. I'll hit you with a follow. Yeah,
I
it's been fun,
appreciate
guys.
It's
Appreciate
actually
it.
one
appreciate
question
it.
I meant to ask at the beginning is who do you watch when it comes to streaming, and what draws you to them?
Honestly, I put a Twitch on to fall asleep, so I don't want to name too many names because I don't know if they'll take it the right way. But I like to throw it on at the end of the night as I'm hitting the pillow, as some noise and something to keep my eye on. But I do watch. I like to watch some Hearthstone stuff on Twitch. So some of the guys I do like, if I was to call somebody out, not that they need my help, would
Yeah.
be like Dog. Or I really like watching Halion play Hades. That's been a lot of fun for me.
What a cool game Hades is. What an awesome game Hades is. I started playing it on my Switch the other night. It's freaking cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. I'll look into it. I don't boot up my Twitch at all. It sits here on not my Twitch, my Switch. It sits here. I haven't played it since Animal Crossing. We had like a whole thing, an Animal Crossing thing for a while, and I haven't touched it since. And now that I have this Ninja Turtle game, there's no way I'm gonna fucking play anything else. I just screwed up the transitions for those who are watching. I just screwed up the transitions. My Stream Deck reset to its main profile, and I put my stream up. So I don't know how that's gonna look or how that's gonna play out. I don't know how I'm gonna edit it because I think we were all talking, and if there was talking, none of that audio went through because it was so. It's stupid.
Andy, you're fired.
I know. Fuck.
Oh man.
So
there's a lot of fun having you. I think next time, if and when there is a next time, I would love to just talk video games.
Love it. Yeah.
We'll talk some games. And if Andy keeps fucking up, it might just be you and I. How do you feel about co-hosting a podcast?
After 8:30, I'm in.
I'll be that's fine. I'll do your YouTube editing. I have a fee.
Oh, what's 0 divided by 0 times 0?
$80 a month.
I'll get back the other day.
Depends on where you put the zeros.
Well, I think on that note, are we still recording?
Everything's recording. Everything everything's still live. Okay. The one time we do this on my channel.
I'm just glad it wasn't mine. Justin, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I think it was an amazing experience, an amazing conversation. Thank you so much.
Yeah, dude. Thanks for agreeing to do this, and I'll probably catch you soon. We'll play some games together. I wouldn't actually mind playing some Hearthstone tonight if you're around.
Yeah, I'll go check in on the family. It's my night to put the boy down, and then maybe I'll catch up with you in an hour or so.
All right, so
Andy, where can they find you?
They're gonna find me on Twitter and Twitch. I am AndyTTV. I have a TikTok. I don't care about it right now. I don't even want to talk about it. I don't know why I brought it up. DB, where do you exist?
Dadbods United, almost everywhere. Instagram. I do have a TikTok, but I don't use it because I can't dance. But you can find me mostly on Twitch. Definitely, if you're a fan of the MLB, like I said earlier, I'm taking part in the Sandlot Content Creators League over the next couple of weeks. It's going to be a hell of a lot of fun. So I appreciate you all being here. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Justin.
And if you're wondering where you can listen to the Parental Gamers, you can watch us live on Twitch every second Friday. And the content will be uploaded to YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcast, and iTunes on the very next Monday. Make sure you follow us on all of them. Follow our Twitter @GamersParental, and keep in touch. And if you have any ideas for future episodes, ideas, or things that you just want to say, make sure to use #PG Podcast, and we'll see you there. So I'm Andy.
I'm Dadbods United.
And we'll see
you again.
I'm
the guest, Justin.
And there's the guest, Justin. We'll see you again. Thanks for joining us, guys.